Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet, everybody. And I'm very pleased to have on the panel tonight, we've got Gary from Gary Stuff.
Hello.
And we've got Jamie of the Scale Modeling Cafe.
Hello.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I am drinking invisible beer because of green screen. Well, it has no alcohol, so perhaps that's appropriate.
Yeah, we call that brown sadness water where I come from.
Brown sadness water.
Oh dear.
Can you have that in the Middle East?
Got brown sadness water, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, the shelves are full of it. No Pusser's Run though.
Oh, good man. The right stuff.
Exactly.
No, it's good to have you with us. How have you been? What have you been up to? Because it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Unfortunately, the time zones over there don't really allow for this because I've got to be in work for sort of 6 o'clock in the morning, which is rubbish. And being 2 or 3 hours ahead, it doesn't quite work. So I'm actually home on leave at the moment, although I go down to Heathrow tomorrow night, fly back on Friday morning. So this is 3 weeks of Ramadan at home. So it's been lovely. Brought the weather with me. It's been amazing.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, got loads done in the garden, which has been fantastic.
And how about you, Gary? What have you been up to?
Oh, this and that. Deciding I'm probably ill-suited to this hobby, generally speaking, because I've developed a new habit of very, very nearly finishing a kit and then losing a crucial part. So
that's just standard, isn't it?
Yes, it was the nose wheel of a Eurofighter Typhoon, and today it's been the front, the nose gear doors of an F-35A. So I'm sure they'll turn up somewhere. Everything else has been around. So other than that, same old, just making stuff and filming stuff and generally living the dream.
Indeed. I actually put my super freighter together today.
Well done,
you. I'd actually decided that, so I replaced the windows. I actually just used UV resin, and which took a bit of time. And then I had this plan. I put the decals on before joining the halves, because once you got the wings on, it's a single piece decal, that stripe all the way across. Why Airfix chose to do it, I'm not sure, because it's impossible to do that. I actually cut the second one into 3 pieces and it works much easier. But if you tried to do that after putting the wings on with that strut, I just don't see how you would.
Yeah.
And actually, because the seam is on the top where you've got solid white, and on the bottom where you've just got sky grey, or aircraft light grey, you can put it in, fill the seam, and then it's just a simple, touch-up job. It's well, that's the theory anyway. Working theory as it's going at the moment.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. I did receive today in the post an eBay purchase.
Ooh.
So I picked up this.
Oh, well done you.
Oh, classic. Yeah.
Angel Interceptor, and it came with a little note saying, thank you for your purchase. Hope you enjoy the Angel Interceptor. Really like the YouTube channel. Just like, and it's like, oh, that's really nice. Yeah. So unexpected, just some random eBay purchase. So I was like, oh yeah, it's him.
Cool.
I also have Casey will appreciate this. I saw Casey was in, so I got this.
What is that?
Ooh.
So that is a color globe.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows what I've been trying to say on some of the videos about color space. So this is towards white, that is towards black, and obviously you have the different axes: blue, red, green, blue, etc. And so it shows how you're going up in whiteness. You can't see it very well here because the light's so bright. But as you go towards white, the differences shrink in between these. I thought it was quite a cool little 3-dimensional representation of color space. Not entirely accurate, but you know, you can't have everything.
Right up your boulevard, as they say.
Indeed. So the title of tonight, and yeah, it's funny because I put this up and Jay was like, "What? Airfix is Hornby killing Airfix?" Which is, of course, my usual sort of provocative title. But it really came about because last week I had a couple of deliveries, one from Tiger Hobbies with a whole load of Ryefield model kits, which look really good. And they're selling really well, which is always nice. And I also, on the same day, had a delivery from Hornby with a bunch of Airfix stuff. It's all I ordered from the Humboldt paints, but that doesn't really count. And when I opened it, I was a bit puzzled because it had about 4 different kits from about 4 different orders. It wasn't one thing. No Jaguars. I still don't have Jaguars, despite pre-ordering like, I don't know, half a dozen of them or something. And I was like, what the hell is going on? You know, I looked into it, and basically, I know a few other people didn't get their pre-orders on time, Gary. And when I actually inquired to my rep, basically, cut a long story short, they were kind of like, oh, well, you probably like, well, sorry, no, I'll scroll back a bit. One of the other things with the order was there was a bunch of stuff in there I didn't order. So I only ordered 4 of the Eurofighter starter kits. And in this, and I've already had them, and in this order were another 4 Eurofighter kits. That's when I knew things were going wrong, because it's just like I've only ever ordered. There's only one order I have that has those on. I had a B-17 and a B-24, and I'm just like, I've had these already. You know, a couple of Belvederes, an HMS Belfast set. It's just like, which is one of the worst kits still available from Airfix. It's like, no, this isn't right. It's like, and then it was like, where are my Jaguars? It's like, oh, well, you don't have enough credit left on your account for the Jaguars. Oh. It's just like, yeah, but if you hadn't sent me all this crap that I didn't order, I would have. Plus, why didn't somebody just say? You know, it's just like, it's just, and that kind of got me onto a whole thing. And obviously, we've all been waiting patiently for this Jaguar. We were all hoping we would get the Jaguar last year. They were developing it, and it was announced this year. Everybody was very happy. And yet, it's kind of tempered my enthusiasm for it. And once again, got to that Hornby stab in the ribs. And funnily enough, I had a rep come in from Amarang, who import Hasegawa and Polar Lights and other things. And he was telling me about some of the stories he's had told to him from people he's visited, obviously other model shops, where they've also had similar or worse experiences with Hornby. So I've kind of got this personal thing where I love Airfix kits. I think what the team are doing there. I think Dale's going in the right direction. I think the design team are really good. And on the other hand, you've got Hornby with they are still the worst company I deal with business-wise. These terrible business practices, they don't seem to be getting better. I know my local rep was left like over a year ago, and he wasn't replaced. His job was split up amongst others. So my current rep has a bigger area. He's covering all of the products from Hornby. I was just like, well, is this a sign of things to come from Hornby? Are we going to see, you know, each of the brands? And I picked Airfix particularly because, of course, they are the one that we are primarily interested in. And at least as far as my understanding is, one of, if not the most profitable brand within the group. So it kind of comes to that, you know, are Airfix actually being constrained now by the Hornby brand? And I thought, well, I've got a particular view, but, you know, I wanted to bring some other people in to see what you think. So, Jamie, you expressed surprise at my title when I give you. What does it look like from somebody who is not always in the UK, has perhaps a little bit more of an outside view? What's your view on Airfix and Hornby? Are they synonymous? Are they different? Do you not think of one?
Well, I'm not a businessman for a start, so I know nothing about business. I think we all watched that Hornby financial results video that went out, and I tried my best to follow it. Like I say, I'm not a businessman. And I don't know. I've been sort of thinking about it this afternoon, thinking, what can I bring to this discussion from a purely consumer point of view? Because obviously, Alex, you're all over the business side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a very different view probably than
exactly
the average model.
As a consumer, I think all I can see is Airfix going from strength to strength, and all the stuff that's in the Hornby, like the Hornby model trains brand, not the overall company. How well they're doing, and all their other companies and brands that they've got is completely opaque to me. I've got no idea. I know nothing about model trains. I don't even really know the other brands under the Hornby umbrella. So all I know is Airfix, and all I can assume is Airfix are doing really, really well on their own, because they're pumping out the new kits. We're getting 3 or 4, well, certainly 3 or 4 mainstream announcements every new year. We all know that we're going to get at least one surprise throughout the year as well. Yep. They're pumping out the vintage classics, and re-releases with new decal options, new boxings and everything. And it's not cheap to do a new boxing of an existing kit, obviously cheaper than a brand new tool, clearly. But they're investing in, pumping all this stuff out, and they wouldn't be doing that if they were in financial woes. They'd be very much constrained, and maybe you'd see one new Spitfire or something like that, a banker, and that would be it. You wouldn't be getting Lysanders and Wessexes, Wessex-I.
What is the plural of Wessex? Yeah.
Well, exactly. I know Lynx, plural of Lynx is Lynx. I know that one. So really the question is, clearly Airfix are doing well. And it goes to your question. If they were completely outside the Hornby group and independent, would they be doing even better? Or being part of that bigger group, even though there might be some issues in the bigger group, does it enhance their state, as it were, to have that kind of umbrella over the top, and allows them to take risks? And I remember Dale saying about the Scout car, and what a surprise that was in its popularity. Now, maybe if they weren't doing so well, they wouldn't have taken a punt on that. And it seems to me it was a bit of an unknown, maybe a bit of a punt. Certainly the popularity of that has taken them completely by surprise. And maybe they wouldn't do kits like that if they were on their own, or maybe they do more of that if they were on their own. And, we just don't know what's going on behind the scenes at that sort of higher level, whether it's allowing them to do even more, or whether it is sort of pouring a little bit of water on their sort of flames, if you like. Who knows?
Yeah, because clearly Hornby, or rather Phoenix Asset Management, who owns the Hornby Group, because obviously Hornby owned Airfix before Phoenix came in. Phoenix came in and injected a whole load of cash into the group. Obviously, they're an investment company, and that has obviously provided it. I guess for me, it is now, obviously, Airfix have risen to that challenge and filled that, if you want, gap that they had before, and very profitable, very successful it is whether now, almost like that if you like a cage, I'm going to bring my little ball in. You know, if you've got the structure now, if you can imagine Airfix as an expanding balloon within that, is that being constrained by that framework? And you know, if they didn't have that, could they? Because I see, obviously, again from the business side, the distribution network, having been in distribution management, you know, I see what isn't happening in North America. You know, some of the stories you hear, and people not able to get stuff, and Australia and all the rest of it. We talked about Tamiya a couple of weeks ago on Airfix and Chill. You know, they have this very consistent, very good global network. You know, you can buy a Tamiya kit anywhere, basically. And it's going to be basically about the same amount of money, and you know exactly what you're going to get, and it's probably going to be perfect out of the box. Probably not going to get any QC issues. And if you do, they'll do that as source. You won't have to send it back to to Tamiya HQ, as it were. So, yeah, I don't see that with Airfix, which I think is what they need to get to that. And I'd love to see them do that, right? I'd love to see Airfix get to a stage where they are able to compete at a global level, because that would obviously give them revenue to then be able to do, you know, more of the, as you say, the Licensors and the ferrets and all those kinds of things. So, yeah, not sure. Gary, what's your take on it?
I think really, I don't know how much Airfix benefits from being part of Hornby Hobbies as a whole. As Jamie says, I'm not partial. I'm not a part of that sort of understanding of the entire group business. I think Airfix would be doing even better if they had control of their own sales team to go and deal with you guys, because trying to have a group sales team, you're going to end up with people who know an awful lot about trains and they know absolutely a square root of nothing about model aeroplanes, and vice versa, and that's to no one's benefit. I think
and Scalextric and diecast as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Scalextric is probably doing pretty well for them. Corgi is probably doing okay for them. I think the train business is probably struggling more because it's so expensive. I think they're pricing themselves out of the market, personally. But that's just one thing. What I do think Airfix could benefit from would be their own sales team, recruit their own sales team to work nationally, and also to be able to buy in their own production or to govern their production. I don't know how much control Airfix has, as opposed to Hornby Models has, over things like quality control in India in the factories. I don't know whether that. I'm guessing the contracts are signed with Hornby Hobbies as the legal entity, and therefore there's a certain amount of, well, it's the group's job to do this, because maybe they also cast stuff for the other brands. I don't know, but I think Airfix would love to have more control over quality control there, and I'm sure, as absolutely certain, that Dale would love to have his own sales team out on the road, dealing with issues and sorting things out.
Yeah. So I haven't gone to the chat yet, which I normally do. So apologies, everybody. I will do that very shortly. But I just saw that Moss is in, Evening Moss, and brings up a really good point. He says, I think Airfix is growing faster than the other brands, but without that hub of distribution, customer service, sales team, office space, and funding from Hornby, without that cost spread, Airfix would not survive. Which I kind of agree with, and I get initially. However, that also brings with it, the scale of it also brings additional costs. So obviously their distribution, their warehousing and everything has to accommodate everything. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm not party to any of the numbers either, any of the cost structure or anything. And although that is spread amongst the group, a smaller company doesn't have the same scale of cost. So could Airfix survive without all of the other bit? I think they probably could. I mean, maybe it wouldn't, they'd be headquartered in Margate, I don't know. I don't know the cost of Margate.
Would that be a bad thing? But they also have to account for that internally. Hornby Hobbies has the space. They then charge the subdivisions to sort of bring it into the pot, presumably, to pay for the facilities and but most of Airfix is independent of that anyway. They have their own sales team. They don't use the other sales teams. It's the sales force on the road that they have to deal with.
Yeah, and there's only like
they have their own marketing people. They have their own customer service. Everything.
There's not many of them either. There's only like 4 or something for the UK.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if I look at let's take Barkman as a comparable. I don't know if they're comparable, but they're a wholesaler. They do, they do a lot of railway, obviously, because they're Barkman. They also, I think they do, if I'm not mistaken, Italieri. I think they import. I think they do Academy and some other stuff. Definitely Academy. I'm not sure about Italieri actually, because they're all over the place. But they have reps. I think they've got 5. I think they got 5 for the UK, maybe 6. And a smaller portfolio, I think, than Hornby as a group do. At least probably less diverse. I mean, Bachman do cover a fair few different things, but it's all kind of in the same wheelhouse, I don't think they've got anything as extreme as because it's quite a spread, the Hornby thing. Scalextrics, I mean, I know nothing. I couldn't speak to anything about Scalextrics at all. I had a knockoff kind of Scalextrics-like slot car thing when I was a kid, which was cool, but it was a pain in the ass to put together. It used to take ages to have to get it all out and put it all together, and it was a polystyrene box, as everything was then. And then it kind of worked, once or twice, and you got bored. That's kind of my sum total, experience. I've no idea about the cost structure of stuff. I had no idea where you would go to buy Scalextrics actually in the southwest, around me. I would have to go and look it up. So yeah, it's an odd one because again, the whole corgi thing, die-cast collectibles are quite a different market than scale models. I don't know many scale modelers. I'm sure there is an overlap, of course, but I don't think there's a huge one, with that Venn diagram. I think the Venn diagram of, the 4 circles, Airfix, Hornby, I suppose you've got Humbrol in the middle covering several of those, but then Scalextrics and Corgi. I think there's a very small overlap in the middle of people that do all 4 of those.
Definitely.
Probably funding an awful lot of Hornby. Okay, just let me go back to the chat, and because I normally do that, and I kind of dove straight in tonight. We've got quite a lot in tonight. We've got, oh my God, 148. That is a lot. So I won't go through and say hello to everybody, but welcome to everybody, because otherwise I'm going to be here for like 20 minutes just reading out people's names. But I see a lot of familiar names. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining. For those of you who I don't recognize, welcome as well. If you do have any comments or questions, as in Airfix and Chill on a Monday with Moss, if you can put question in capital letters or QQQ or comment in capital letters, it just helps pick it out from all of the chat, especially when there's quite a lot of people in. Just helps to focus it down, because obviously we're gabbing away. You know me, I always go off on tangents. So it just helps to keep that peripheral vision. John Alec, you are welcome to join us. I think you've got the link. Moss as well, you are welcome to join. I'm not sure you've got the link, but if you want to, just put it in chat and I'll send you the link. Everybody enjoying the good weather? Well, unfortunately, the days aren't quite long enough yet, because I get to the shop in the morning, and then by the time I leave at 5:30, it's usually just I mean, it's nice. It's nice now, but not quite. It's not quite that premium part of the day. You know?
I'm hoping for some bad weather before I go back, because I've got 6 months of relentless blue sky.
You get.
It'd be nice to get drizzle before I went.
I've got barbecue supplies coming tomorrow, so I don't mind. Bring it on.
Oh, that's you've cursed it now, Gary. That's instant rain.
No. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Although if it's rain, there's no excuse not to have a barbecue, obviously.
Exactly. We've got an awning that covers the barbecue area.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a typical British, British barbecue, isn't it? That
absolutely.
So lots of people I can see in the chat talking about various different things. Julian Hall makes a comment. Ari, tonight's question, yes, unequivocal. Oh, yes, definitely. Even if indirectly, killing off local shops means shoppers are robbed of knowledge of point of sale. Buying online, you get no expertise or advice, which is kind of the other thing I kind of wanted to touch on, because I mean the experience last week, and you know, I must say, you know, to be fair, Hornby have raised my credit limit to what it was, what I was told it would be when I first opened the account. And then, so, you know, 18 months late, I've now got the credit limit I thought I would have, which is at least freed up the ability to have the stock. I still had no notification of shipment, so I don't know what's happening. And unfortunately, even though, well, about 14 months ago, we were told that there would probably be a portal coming next year, which was 2024. That still hasn't arrived, and they're now saying hopefully this year. So trying to find out what's going on is difficult. Yeah, so one of the things that Hornby does is obviously it has a lot of online sales. Well, firstly, it sells direct to customer, which, you know, is not great. You can accept it if that's kind of an even playing field, but Airfix don't really play it, or Hornby don't really play it as an even playing field, and they have a lot of, you know, these outlet sales, which I've been in the position, and certainly from what reps have come in and told me, other model shops have placed orders, and the next day there's been a 30% sale, and Airfix have not told them in advance, which is shit, really. Shitty. So that whole that online thing, and this is where it gets a bit difficult for me, because obviously, Jamie, Gary, as consumers, you know, a 30% off sale in the Airfix store seems great, right? For me, it's a kick in the balls, and I actually don't think it's great for a brand. You know, you don't see the same sort of thing happening with Ravel, Teleri, Hasegawa, Academy, Tamiya. You don't get these crash sales. So for me, it doesn't really instill confidence, I suppose. What's your guys' view on the kind of the online direct to customer, you know, outlet sale kind of thing that they have going on?
I mean, I can see it from both sides. I can see it from your point of view and other shops. There are a couple of other shopkeepers, for want of a better phrase. So I can see it from that side of it, but I am a consumer, and I can see it from that side of it as an indication. If they're having sales, as an you know, I struggle to connect that between company financial performance, or are they struggling so they're having a sale? I would like to think it's not that. I would like to think it's just, you know, they just need to clear a bit of space in the warehouse or something. But, you know, why can't they, if they want to have a crash sale, why can't they take those cheaper kits and give them to the shops at a discounted rate and allow the shops to sell them at the discount. Okay, maybe from a business point of view, they don't get as much revenue from that, but it would certainly go a long way to, help relations, I guess, with their retailers. But from a consumer point of view, I think most consumers don't really think too much of it and go, "Oh, Airfix have a sale. I'll get something." And
Which is, and you can't blame anybody, right?
Well, exactly.
I mean, if I were in that position, I mean, I have in the past used that 30% sale. I've only been doing the shop coming up to 2 years now. So yeah, 3 years ago I was buying direct from Airfix, and I mean the counter for that was I didn't really have a local shop, so that's another whole nother thing. Anyway, speaking of Airfix, let me welcome in Moss, who's also joining us tonight.
Good evening. It's not often I get a Wednesday off and see
Yeah,
it.
there we
I
go.
only watch you the next day, if you know what I mean. I go back and watch, but yeah, I've got nothing. I haven't got my model club on tonight, so I've been quite good. But as soon as I saw the title, I was like, I'll be interested here because me and your business, I'm consumer. And as I said, I got no worries about distribution to the customer from Airfix. But I do worry on the other side for the distribution to business.
But you say about the distribution to customers, other people have. I mean, I know, Gary, you didn't get your Jaguar till what, Monday? Whenever
Monday.
It was? Yeah. I know in previous. I mean, I don't know whether this is something that Airfix, is improving, but I know in previous releases we've all experienced not receiving product before some shops, or just it being a bit all over the place. So do you think they're getting better at that then, what?
Yeah, well, I'm the problem with pre-ordering, and Gary's mentioned this before in one of his videos. What's the point in pre-ordering when you can't pay for expedited delivery? You'd rather wait for them to announce, oh, it's in, pay your extra £7 and get it next day. So why bother with the pre-order? And that, and that's what happened. That's what happens. I think I was lucky because I was one that as soon as you saw me when we were doing the release, I banged and I paid for that Jaguar. I got my pre-order in straight away. So whether they do it by that, but I'm going by the comments on my video, 8 or 9 people got theirs on the same day as me who pre-ordered their Jag. So and also DPD is 4 miles away from me. So because they use DPD, and I love DPD, me and Joe, the delivery driver, we got, he don't even knock on the door anymore. He just puts in the key code, drops it in through the door for me, and then buggers off. But I've got DPD right there, and it's a good hub as well because it covers all of Southwest basically, and I'm only 4 miles away, so I'm going to get my delivery as soon as it hits that door, off that lorry. Fortunate for me, anything I get from DPD, I get the tracking through. I get it by 10 o'clock next day because they're right by the hub. So I think
I will say,
with that,
as a shout out to DPD, my local DPD guy who delivers all the Hornby stuff, and I think creatives. In fact, most of my stuff comes through DPD. Guy called Chris, really nice guy, delivers the stuff to the shop. When we moved here, he didn't know obviously, and he knocked on the door of the house to deliver a parcel, and he was like, "Oh," I was just like, "Yeah, I live here now as well."
but as a business, though, what I'd like to ask you, because I love all this debate, I really do. But as a business, aren't Airfix basically doing exactly the same as Hannants, Gauge Master, Jarvis Manufacturing? They are importers and third party distributors, but they also sell to customers if you so wish. Isn't that the same with Airfix?
No, because the difference is, so none of those others have big marketing pushes. So none of them have a club where you can get preferential rates through the club. None of them do big outlet sales. None of them have the marketing. So if you think of, I'll cite one. I'm sure all of you know Gary from Tiger Hobbies. He often watches. Gary's a character. I've had conversations with him. Really nice guy. Tiger Hobby sell direct to the public, and they're a wholesaler. But if they have any sort of sale, I get the same discount on trade as the stuff they're selling in their sale.
And that's what you don't get from Hornby. Then you don't get that from Hornby.
So sometimes,
okay.
So, and this is it. I will say some of it has improved a bit because now you will get, like a Black Friday set of deals, and you get a chance to buy this stuff. I tell you why, though. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, most of the stuff I look on there, I look at and think, well, I know Hornby are going to be putting this out in their outlet sale, or Airfix can do their outlet sale and stuff. The problem is the prices that they're pushing to retail, direct to customer, are often don't give you any margin. There isn't much margin in kits, right?
Yeah.
So pushing 30% discount to a customer basically means a retailer cannot compete. So, I don't make 30% on kits.
No.
I could put a 30% margin on, but then I would be more expensive than everybody else out there, and nobody would buy them. And 100% of nothing is nothing. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, you have to be competitive, and that doesn't give you the margin to compete. So if you think they're selling, we're going to have this Black Friday sale, do you want to buy all these kits? And it's just like, well, you have to look at it longer term. Like, what do I need longer than the Black Friday stuff? After people have bought that, what's the potential market in 6 months' time? Because that's when I'm going to be selling it. I'm not going to sell anything against Airfix in this bit. So it makes you very wary of buying that stock, unless it's something that that is end of line and isn't going to be available, because once the Airfix stock is gone, people have missed that. Then they're going to be looking for the odd one, and then you might sell them. So it's still risky.
It's holding on to stock, isn't it? It's holding on to that stock for that one buyer, isn't it? And that,
but the thing is, small businesses don't really have the working capital to do that.
No.
And you also know that those trade deals have also been extended to everybody else out there, and that Jadlam are going to. And I appreciate. That Jadlam did the whole, Spitfire build thing last year. But that was because they got a shitload of Spitfires really cheap from Airfix. Right? Let's not delude ourselves that it was an act of charity. It was a way of them shifting stock. Clever marketing, got to hand it to them. Top notch in that respect. But, would I buy any Spitfires at the same time? No, because there's no way you're going to sell them.
Yeah.
So how does it work with because Edouard do the same as well, don't they? They sell direct to customer. They do their sales, when they have E-Day and things like that. And they do their sales 20 or 25% off. Now, I appreciate not that many people in the UK, I guess, order direct from Edouard because the postage is expensive.
That's the thing. It's the Europe thing.
Revell don't even deal with England anyway now. Revell have changed mantra. They don't do business to B2C in this country. No. It's just B2B. But if you're in Germany, Revell's your friend just as much as the UK. Airfix is your friend. So the problem is that model shops are going. But then again, if you look across the whole industry, or the whole idea of shopping. I remember, we had the argument years ago, why are the council putting fees on car parking in high streets when you can go to Tesco's where the parking is free and not even enter the high street? And you've got the idea with the model shops as well, is, Airfix haven't got all these model shops anymore. Because to supply to, I think that if there was a model shop in every town, Airfix wouldn't be even dealing online. They'll just give it to the model shops to sell. I really believe this. But because you've got the likes of Amazon, and we've just had COVID as well, where everybody was buying online, everybody's used to buying online. So the only way you're going to survive is to convert your shop from the high street to a container with a phone box. And then when somebody rings you up, you can then send it. The only people who actually won in this are the couriers, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? They're the, if you want to get into business, become a van driver, you know, and just deliver, you know, yes. But, everything I buy new now, if I say, oh, I need this USB plug, I don't go to Maplin's for it. I'll just go to Amazon and buy it.
Yeah.
So our whole shift has kind of changed on that, you know. So and the high street is dying. But if there's no shops for Airfix to go giving their product to, or less shops, the other option is to start selling online and following that path. And I know it's heartbreaking.
I think it's an argument, Moss. I'm not sure it's
not a right argument, but I'm just saying that's what
I'm not sure it holds enough water, because other businesses in this industry still supply only. I mean, look at Tamiya.
Yeah,
We do not sell direct in this country. Neither do Hasegawa or Academy, and they all still manage to make a business out of it. Okay, maybe I won't include people like Academy because they're too small in this country. But I mean, Revell now, you could say, because they are only B2B here. So it's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one. I totally get that, but also on the other side of the coin, there's not that many shops in Japan. A lot of theirs is all shipped over Korea. You know, they sell a lot online. And if you ask, and you know, I've spoken to people and I say, what's the crack with buying Tamiya? Where'd you get yours from? Quite a few people say, well, we buy it off Amazon. We don't actually go to a shop and buy Tamiya. You know, Tamiya's got their own shop on Amazon, the same as Airfix got their own shop on Amazon, because that's how they're getting product. If you live in Australia, I always say, look for the Airfix shop on Amazon, because they'll get it to you quicker. You know, but I feel that businesses are going where the customers are going, and unfortunately, Amazon's a big marketplace. eBay's a big marketplace. I've bought many kits from Poland through eBay. You know, and as I said, you know,
there's a comment here from Julian Hall, which I think is relevant. I'd like to bring it at this point.
Yeah.
That is, if local shops don't get Airfix kits because of Hornby's rubbish service, that drives customers to buy online, then shops lose business and close.
Or they diversify, like Jadlam did, where they basically, their business mantra is online now, isn't it? How many emails you get?
I mean, but Jadlam aren't really a shop in the way that, you know, they're not in a high street, are they? It's a warehouse that has, a, you know, kind of shop
beside it,
yeah. Which is, I mean, absolutely a totally viable business practice. But it's, I mean, let me come at it from a different way, because I kind of don't want to get into a rut with this.
No, I get that.
But
I do. Yeah.
For example, if I take, I'll scale back and come back to this point that Julian's made. Hornby are still, despite any improvements they've made, the single worst supplier I have in the shop, and one of the worst business practices I've ever come across in 30 years of commercial life. So something there needs to change, and at some point, I think that will hurt Airfix if it carries on in the way it is.
Yeah.
So, Alex, on that, sorry to cut you off, but do you think that's they've taken a deliberate choice to operate like that, and it's not quite working, and they see it as teething problems and it will be okay? Or do you think it's just, dare I say, a little bit of incompetence, and it's not deliberate, it's just that they haven't got the right people in the right role?
That's the question, isn't it?
I'd
love to know the answer to that one.
That's a good one.
I mean, because both of those aren't really, I mean, both of those have positive things and negative things to them, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if it's a deliberate choice, it's like, okay, it's a deliberate choice. That's their business model. It kind of sucks if you're, a little guy like me. And it's kind of a bit hypocritical when they talk about, supporting the hobby and all this kind of stuff, which always grates on me when when they do that. And I think, well, why have you got such shitty business practices? And on the other hand, you think, well, if it's incompetence, it's like, well, at least they don't mean it. But then it's like, yeah, but it's still incompetent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Alex, you don't invest £1 million into a new website across the Hornby brand, not to try and make it a success to go online and to go B2C, surely. It's £1 million, wasn't it, they spent on the website? Because it was crap. Do you remember originally, Gary, years ago, the website was shockingly, they used to break when they put the advent calendar up, didn't they? What I mean?
And you could always see what the next year's releases were by going to the homepage and just putting /2015 at the end of it. And all of the new releases would pop up in the shop. Like, well done. Good security there, boys.
Yeah, it was shocking. But
no, it still has its issues, considering they've spent so much money on it. I mean, I've been there before, and sometimes, like when we're talking online in a stream, and somebody's mentioned something, and I think, well, I'll quickly look that up, and I can't find it, and it's because you have to enter it in a certain way. Or I've typed in something like, I don't know, like lightning or something, and it has 0 results. What do you mean there's 0 results? And then you go in and manually find it, but the search doesn't find it. It's like, how can you do that? How can it not work that way?
Probably got typos in it, that's why.
It does have some weird little quirks. And I found that a few times, when I've been looking for stuff, which is just odd, And there's no consistency as well between, because obviously we get like press packs, the access to the online hobby assets, Hornby hobby assets, so the pictures and all that kind of stuff. But it's really inconsistent. And you'll see this actually if you go onto the website now and look at the Eurofighter starter kit, for instance, there's a whole load of pictures. If you go to some of the other kits, there's just like one. There's like a picture of the box. And it's like, I was hoping for something more.
And no drawings of the schemes.
No,
that is a missing point. Yeah, I've mentioned that a few times. But you don't invest all that money, and I'm sure, I think me and you, Alex, discussed it on a podcast or on a chill, that they did say that they were aiming at online. They were.
I mentioned it before you came in. Moss.
Oh, didn't you? Sorry.
So Mark, my prior rep, and he's been gone for over a year now, said that they were hoping to get one. I filled in a survey from Hornby, a retail trader survey about an online portal about 14 months ago, and thinking, oh, great, it's finally coming. When all this crap turned up last week, and I was talking to Tim, my rep, he was just like, oh, this should be easier. Hopefully we might be getting a portal this year. It's just like, really? That's 2 years now down the line, and like, every Tiger Hobbies is a small independent wholesaler, and they've had a portal for all the time I've been trading, which is pretty good. I mean, you can see stock, and same with Amarang and Creative and the Hobby Company, all that. It's if you're going to be a business selling to business, it's kind of a baseline requirement, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, a quick dive back into comments. Casey says, someone who is technically an influencer. Well, I think that might be stretching it, Casey.
They called us that at the evidence day, didn't they?
Yeah.
With nearly 26k people watching, it's probably not worthy enough of a Jaguar in the eyes. I mean, it's. So I said this in my private Discord chat. It's like, I don't expect special treatment, like because I've got a shop or YouTube channel or whatever. But having been in distribution, you will have customers, and you will know some of those customers are, they'll all have different thresholds with the amount of shit that they can take. Yeah.
Mm.
And I've worked for companies that have had actually much worse distribution problems than Hornby have, or they've had instances where that's happened. And, some distributors would be like, well, that's fine. We've got stock. We can take that, blah, blah, blah. Others are just like, as soon as it happens, it's just like, well, we are operating a just-in-time model. We can't really take that, and they're much more vocal. And you tend to apply to the ones that are more vocal more quickly, just because you want an easier life. So I would have kind of thought you kind of want to keep people who aren't going to go online and moan about it as much. I mean, you want the same standard of service for everybody. You want good service for everybody, but maybe good service first for some others.
I would say that we're privileged as creators that we have a company who's willing to be very open. I just got to email Dale and I get an answer, but that goes for anyone. If you his email address is open and he will listen to your critique, your suggestions, what you think. But like I said, he's still Airfix is a brand within a brand, isn't it?
Yeah. You see, I deliberately haven't contacted Dale. And the reason I didn't is because I have a rep.
Yeah.
It's his job. That's part of his job. I don't want to kind of be seen as somebody who, uses, they're not connections,
Yeah.
But, anything like that just sounds it's a bit cheesy to me,
Yeah.
And it's just like, and that doesn't engender any sort of trust from me to Tim, the rep. So I wanted to go through the proper channels. And as I say, I don't want special treatment. I just want it to work.
Yeah.
A quick dive back. Comment. In my honest opinion, the Hornby Group look after the pounds, big companies, not the pennies, local shops, and that attitude kills distribution for the whole group, as well as Airfix.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful of the term distribution, because there's two. You've got business, like you're saying, business to business, business to customer.
Well, I think in this term, distribution is business to business, and to consumer, what's it called? Fulfillment.
Fulfill. That's what. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking of. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Graham Ball says, I agree with Moss, but the distribution problems via Hornby reflect badly on the Airfix brand unfairly. And that is one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about when I first thought of this topic in my angst-ridden typing.
I think there's a place for it to have,
Well, it is that, that does Airfix really deserve the kind of rap that it gets from some of these Hornby issues? Because I was very enthusiastic about Airfix. It caught me at the right time when I was setting the shop with the Seeking Day. They were releasing all this stuff. I spent literally thousands of pounds on stock, Airfix stock. And then it was only a few months later that Hornby had managed to kill all of that enthusiasm. And that's not what you want as a distributor from your outlets, right? You want them to be enthusiastic. You want it to be as easy as possible for them to sell your product, because then they sell more of it, and it's a positive feedback then. So do you think, and again, it comes back to that thing of, really, is Hornby a negative influence now on Airfix rather than positive?
I think when that video came out, a deep dive into their finances, looking at a lot of the comments and a lot of the chat afterwards, a lot of people were conflating the two together and were assuming that when they were talking about Hornby, they were just talking about Airfix. Maybe because we live in this Airfix on a bubble.
Yeah.
Don't consider the sort of trains and Skeletrix and Hornby and everything. What I'd love to see is a video exactly the same as that, but on the Airfix numbers.
You won't get it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you won't get it. Yeah, I would love to see the breakdown, Jamie, between the different.
Brilliant, because then we'd know exactly how healthy Airfix are. And as I said earlier, right at the start, I believe, I get the impression that Airfix, in their Airfix bubble, are actually doing well. But I just love to see the numbers, and then that would tell us the answer. And in fact, and they'd never say it, but the sort of the business people at the top of Airfix, those guys above Dale, the guys who sit in the office, in the boardroom and stuff, and just have a chat with them. And it's never going to happen. It's pie in the sky. But wouldn't that be brilliant? Dale is so open and honest and forthcoming about everything other than next year's releases for obvious reasons. And it would, but it just seems that it kind of like stops at his level. And we all know Dale is the face of Airfix, if you like, and it's partly his job as brand manager to put himself out there and give us the gouge. But I just love in one of these programs or something to get some gouge from that executive level of Airfix, or that link between executive level Airfix and the group, and actually get some info. I know it's never going to happen, but it would be fascinating.
I would love. Well, okay, if the four groups, the four big ones, I mean, they do some other bits and bobs, but if you think of Airfix, Hornby, Scalextrics, and Corgi, they're the four kind of big names in there. I know there are other ones like Posher and stuff, but my guess would be Airfix are going to be number one in terms of profitability, probably turnover actually. I think Corgi might actually be number two, and I think Hornby and Scalextrics are going to be fighting it out for the third and fourth place.
I can guarantee you that you're wrong there, because the railway is way higher, just because of
profitability. I think their cost base is way higher.
When I've asked that question before, the response, I'm not saying I got a response indirectly or directly, I'll go indirectly, that there is a lot of money pouring with the train side of things still in this game, believe it or not. But then again, they can sell a train for £300. Who's to say they're not buying that train for 30 quid to then sell it? You don't know what they're buying those trains in, all this stock, or that's the crux, is how much they're paying for this stuff coming in. That's part of the,
Well, they're obviously doing very well, the trains, because they introduced that whole new gauge thing, wasn't it? It was TT 20.
Tabletop, yeah.
So there's clearly some business risk in doing that, and maybe quite a lot. And maybe they did the maths and said, we can afford to write off X millions on this experiment because they're part of a bigger group, and Airfix are profitable and Corgi is profitable, or Scalextrics or whoever. And as a group as a whole, they're kind of subsidizing each other, and they are great.
I think that was one man's passion project, which wasn't properly business assessed. I don't think Phoenix had the eyes on it that I think perhaps they do with stuff now.
It's not sold online anymore. You can buy it in shops now. All the TT's going to just be online. You can only get it online. Well, that was a flash in the pan, because you go to Jadland, they got the kits there ready for you if you want to get them.
Yeah, I could have them in the shop if I had any interest at all.
I think you should get them in.
No, not a chance.
Yeah.
Here's a question.
Come off the
fence. Does Airfix do any police vehicles? It's an easy one to answer. No.
No. I asked about this, and Dale said it's because the lack of standardization.
Yeah.
Same for fire service and ambulance vehicles. They wouldn't be able to do one UK police car, for example, because the forces have got their own supplies. I think that was his reason that he gave me.
I mean,
As
we
if
don't
it's
even have
really
the same
big BMW.
recycling standards county to county, so you're not going to get the same police vehicle, are you?
We're not going to get the BMWs anymore because they catch fire and they don't. They rather have a Skoda now than they would.
I was going to say that there's a lot of Skodas around here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, not that Skodas are a good car, but they cost a lot less than the BMW.
Yeah, I think
But the Volkswagens, basically, that's why.
Yeah, that's it. The
Um,
badge group, isn't it?
Dave, World War II scale models. Dave is a gentleman and a scholar. I've said it before. Has gifted 10 man's model membership. Can't even say my own thing. Man's model moment memberships. It's the fourth M that's the problem. Thank you, Dave. That's much appreciated. Those of you who receive those, I believe they're just distributed randomly by YouTube. Go to the members posts in the community tab. You'll see a little tab there, little members only post, which has the Discord link in. If you want to come over to the Discord channel, say hello. Just scrolling down, just making sure I'm not missing anything more, because I have been talking for a while. We have been talking for a while, and I noticed the chat is going along. Pete Mathers, or Mathers, not sure. Question: I do like the Airfix pre-order at the start of the year because I can keep the money until they post it. I'd rather use my local shop if it's not a pre-order. Good point. Good point. Steve Naylor has a question. Does the profit from a successful Hornby brand, Airfix in this case, get ploughed back into that brand or used to prop up the less successful ones? I can tell you from working in a corporation with lots of different things, almost certainly the answer to that is Hornby Group money. It'll be allocated profit-wise in the reports that come in and go up to the leadership. They'll see all of those different profits, but it will be used on a group basis and then reallocated out. Now, they may do that according to the performance of brands, but they may also say Airfix has a bad year, but they still want to keep releases going out. You know, they might get more of the percentage than they actually generated. Same for the other brands. So that's one of the big benefits of working in a group company or group of companies. I think that's how they operate rather than vertically. What they call vertically operated is where every single brand stands by itself, which some companies do. I don't think.
Just add on to that though, but because Airfix is a profitable chunk of the business, they have their own marketing team. Whereas I don't think Pocker do. Like for instance, when I was given that car to do over Christmas, that came from a third party. They had a third party in doing their marketing, whereas Airfix have their very own. I think Hornby have their own, and I think Corgi, Scalextrics share the marketing, I believe.
Yeah, but those are core assets rather than investment.
Yeah, but I think they would plow more if a certain brand within the umbrella is doing well, they will have certain extra members of staff in there to cover that, because I don't think you could have. I don't think you can specifically have like a social media person running all 5 accounts. You have to be specific. So one social media person doing the Airfix one social media doing the Hornby, and then the other one doing the other 3. If you know what I mean, it's a case of that. But you are completely right. It is, as I say, with the Airfix being there, it's only one pot of money. And that's the thing about Airfix. When they release a tooling, the actual risk isn't Airfix money. It's Hornby money is that risk. And that's why I feel that at the moment, Airfix is in the right place with the Hornby. I don't think, especially now they're trying to, they've got a particular, look, this sort of information is on LinkedIn. They've employed somebody for global commerce, and he deals with the big companies like Amazon. So if and that's for the whole of the whole Hornby lot, not just for Airfix. So Airfix will catch on his coattails while he's there trying to push the brand into the big marketplaces. Is in Australia as well. There's a big one in Australia that they're pushing into. But
does that then come back to Airfix, or rather Hornby, just wanting to deal with big brands?
But I think that you would be a fool as a business not to deal with the big brands. Apple is on Amazon. You look at all the brands. Microsoft have their own Microsoft shop on Amazon.
Yeah, we're not talking about that scale of company though.
I'm just if you think about Hornby,
I'm really what I'm meaning though, Moss. Of course, you always deal with big companies. It's more of are they just looking to deal with big companies?
Well,
I don't think they
question.
are. And I think they'd be silly if they did. Surely you want to spread your net as wide as possible by doing, everybody from Amazon, your global retailer, down to, your small independent retailers in small towns like Wincanton, and everybody in between, and just trying to keep it fair and equitable so everybody survives, because everybody loves the idea of going down to your village high street and there's your butchers and your greengrocers and your newsagents, and a little model shop. For us, we'd all love that. Clearly,
you've been to Wincanton then. The butcher's just down the road from me.
Well, I was based at Yeovilton for X years, wasn't I? So, me personally, I only use Amazon if I need something tomorrow and I can't nip out and get it. Now, I'm lucky. I live in a lovely rural little village. It's very quaint, but I'm 15 minutes from the centre of Lincoln, so I can pop to B&Q. If I need a retractable knife because I'm putting up some wallpaper or something, right? I can just nip out and get it. I try to avoid Amazon if I can. I'm just getting into my coffee now, and I've just bought an AeroPress, but I did my research online and I went to an independent coffee retailer. I could have gone to Amazon and got it £5 cheaper and got it the next day. But do you know what? I'd rather wait a week and get some independent shop. But that's just me. I know a lot of people will just go, their default is Amazon.
Yeah.
So I think Airfix would be silly not to use those big outlets, but they have to support your small independent shop as well, and everybody right in between.
But it's funny that we're talking Airfix and local because they're UK and Airfix. I wonder if these same debates are happening in Germany with Revel, or the Czech, with Edard, where they are, or you've got the Miniart in Poland, whether they are having the same debate. That people in that country say, well, Miniart are supplying and giving it the big I am. But I really do believe that the whole premise of a model shop is delightful. I really do think a model shop, and I love going to Buffers when I've been, before COVID, you go to Buffers. I've been to Jadlam twice now, but they're like an hour and a half away from me. And the closest thing I got is in Taunton, which is a Hobbycraft, which I go and buy little bits from, occasionally a kit or two, but nothing in particular. But where I am at the moment, it's an hour away, and so I do tend to buy online for my models. But I just wonder whether this same debate is happening with Glow 2B and where they're distributing to. But this is UK problems. Australians are just desperate to get the kits down under, aren't they? Because give us a distributor, we'll buy them. It's difficult, really is difficult.
Is there also an issue of how much it costs Hornby to fulfil an order? In a way, do they look at what's our cost to have the distribution to deliver these to these small shops, as opposed to delivering 5,000 units to someone else's warehouse and have them deal with it? And do you think, investment companies being the way they are, they're not, frankly, most of them are not going to be remotely interested in the benefits of having a local model shop to the modeler. They're going to be looking at, well, this is costing us this much per unit. It works out to this. This method costs us less per unit. That's what we're going to push. And that's what damage will it do for us to lose this? Would there be reputational damage, which then impacts on the bottom line? Because I suspect everything, and I mean every decision they make, is bottom line focused.
I don't think
that
that when it comes to Phoenix, this conversation registers. I don't think that's being discussed. And like Jamie, I would love to. I mean, I would be more than open to giving Airfix or Hornby a substantial discount on my normal business consulting rates to do a consultation with them on like improving their business, on going through a whole kind of Kaizen DBS kind of Six Sigma dive into their business to improve some of this shit. Because it's something I would, it would, and of course I wouldn't be able to tell anybody about it, which would be horrible, but I would know, so that would be good.
DA, sorry.
But the, I mean, I've sat on the other side of this, right? I've been in big manufacturers, and quite frankly, a 12 million company would be one of the small companies that we would have been dealing with, So even when I was working, I used to work for a company called Thermo Fisher, which is the world's largest scientific supplier. It's part of Danaher, who are it's not part of Danaher. It's part of a big group, Thermo Fisher, and we looked after, when Gary, and actually Jamie, you said about you want to do with the big guys all the way down to the little guys. We never said no to anybody. So the small guys, we would deal with in exactly the same way as we would deal with like Glaxo Wellcome or Pfizer as was, whoever.
One of my former employers had an account at Thermo Fisher, just so we could buy bits of chemicals or bits of metals to photograph. Like we could order up, I don't know, some cesium because we wanted to do a high-speed shot of cesium falling into water. It's not going to be a lot of money to the likes of Thermo Fisher, but to be fair to them, they just, sure, how much do you need? 20 grams. Oh, that's fine, no problem.
Yeah, because, and sitting in the leadership of that, it's just like, as a business manager, I would rather have 100 small deals than 3 or 4 big ones, because the 3 or 4 big ones are high risk. So if one of those falls through, I've got to find a third of the business from somewhere else. If I've got 100 small guys and one falls out, it's very easy to find another one to replace that. And that is, I think, some of the bigger picture that I think Airfix are perhaps throwing out of the, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in that only looking or preferentially looking at large businesses is a short-term strategy. So it's not building a long-term success platform, which is, and that's what I see personally, because I mean, this last week has again made me look at, do I even bother dealing with Hornby at all? Because I can get the kits through other wholesalers, and actually the margins are about the same. And I wouldn't be getting the kits straight out of the dock, but then Airfix are going to take most of that business anyway. So will it actually affect me at all? Do I just concentrate on everything else? There are so many other suppliers. I mean, I now have, let's see, they call them collections in Shopify, how the website's organized. And each set of collections I think they can take up to 20 different things. I've got 3 pages now of suppliers, and I need to add another one just to show you how many different brands, even a tiny shop like me, can quickly get into. Airfix is one of those, and they have a larger proportion than that, one of 60 or whatever. Bless you. But it's not business that couldn't be replaced. It's not like I'm turning over Airfix kits all the time. I mainly sell starter kits and vintage classics are actually the 2 biggest, and then you'll get the pre-orders. Those are the main things.
Could you survive, Alex, by not selling Airfix in your shop?
Yeah.
There you go then.
I would.
Yeah.
That's
That's a
but I
frightening
would.
thing to say, but I can see that. I can see that.
I mean, I wouldn't want to.
Hmm.
And for sure, there'd be people that would come and say, "Oh, we got the new Airfix," and this is the problem, right? Because people do come in and ask about, Airfix and stuff, and I don't want to be in the position to say, "Yeah, I can get that in. It will take a while because I don't deal with Airfix because they're a nightmare company." It's not really the name that you want. I mean, talking to the reps and shop owners and stuff, Hornby has a terrible name. As a supplier, and I can see why. They are the single worst company I deal with by a long margin. I mean, they have the smallest profit margins. They have the highest order for shipment. You can't get product under that shipment value. So all the other suppliers I have, if I just want, I don't know, like £120 worth of stuff, because I'd need, some people have ordered some things and I need it in a couple of days. I can do that with the other suppliers and I'll charge £5.95 shipping and that's it. Hornby don't do that. It's a fucking nightmare. I have to place 250 X VAT worth of business of stuff that's in stock. Because if I order £250 worth of stuff and the Hawker P1127 that was on that at £6 trade price isn't in stock, they won't ship it because it doesn't meet the minimum threshold, which is shit. That's just shit business.
I think you make a valid point. If those are the situations, then if
it doesn't affect big businesses, of course, because they're putting through the volume and making the orders all the time, so they never see.
I don't know. I think there's been some big businesses who haven't been happy. The whispers
probably for other reasons, probably
Yeah.
because they can't get the volume, or But it is 20 past, and I am aware I have starred 16 questions, so I'm going to pause for a moment and just go through some of those, so that everybody gets a crack at the whip. James Carnahan says, I think Airfix have become a victim of their own secrecy. Retailers should be delivered stock before a public release date, and retailers should keep stum until the official release date. That is a really good idea. It's one that we did in a lot of companies I work for in distribution. The problem is you need somebody to manage it, and you need people that you can trust. And I don't think Airfix I don't think Hornby have that, because I don't think they have enough reps on the ground to do that, to actually communicate effectively with all those people and keep those secrets. And then there has to be an understanding, a secrecy agreement signed and everything. And if somebody breaches it, there have to be consequences to that.
Didn't work though, did it, Alex? It didn't work, did it?
Messerschmitt 410 didn't work.
Didn't work. It was nice though.
But that's what I mean. There have to be consequences if that's broken, and if there aren't, then it's pointless, and then there's no point doing it. So that's what I mean. That whole situation was because it wasn't managed properly.
But also, you also have a yearly announcement from Airfix saying these kits are coming this year. But as soon as Airfix get them in the warehouse, they're out with them. They like is invoice, go next one, go. So
not for me.
I get that. Yeah, but unless they put a delay on it, unless they say any pre-orders, we're going to ship them all out in one day, bang. But then what's the point in having pre-orders? That you need to use a metric. So considering we're going to release this kit, but then they don't tell anyone. So say for instance the Jaguar, they say in January, Jaguar we're bringing this out, pre-order, and they get the numbers from the pre-orders from their own website. Then you got the likes of Wonderland Models and Jadlam, and we always say Jadlam. I don't know why, but that's because they're marketing so well. Every morning I get an email from them, so Jadlam is always on the forefront. And don't get me wrong, I've had some bloody good deals out of Jadlam, but not for Airfix kits, but Hella and stuff, brilliant. So you and then they put in their pre-order, and then they all look at it or whatever, and they say, right then, do we over-purchase this one because it's going to be big? Looking at how many people are pre-order, and that's how they do it. They've got to judge what they're going to buy. Like that Stalwart, I tell you what, that Stalwart, that's going to be a big seller as well. You look at Brit Modeler, and I think that's what they do. They go and they look and see what they've rustled up, and then they decide what they're going to bring. So doing secrecy doesn't necessarily work for them, And I think the ME410 was an experiment, but I don't think you've seen the last of it. I really don't. I think there'll be something. But then again, that Sea King, we went that Sea King day, and that was the first time they guaranteed a kit to be announced, and it was in our hands within 6 weeks.
Yeah,
that Sea King. They've done really well on that, I think.
Well, they also flew over a pallet worth of them to hand out at the event and to hand out to various people, and then they haven't done that since.
No, I was
think that was
surprised,
expensive,
right? That they didn't do it second year. I'd love to see the metrics again. Like Jamie said, you'd love to be a fly on the wall and see some of these figures, because I mean that was really successful, right? Sea King, it was really well received. I mean, there was the usual modeling controversy that you always get with these things. I'm sure there'll be one around the Jaguar about something. It was around the rivets on the Sea King, but generally it was very well received. It sold very well. And I'm sure a lot of that was because of the way it was released. If they'd just done a Sea King without all that song and dance, I don't think it would have done as well as it did. I mean, I'm down to say that because I was at the Sea King day.
Yeah, that's one of the kits I never reviewed because it was given to me by Airfix. I pay for all my kits to review.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's the best way. It's the best way. I'm not going to deny it.
That also is when you get pissed off when, like 3 or 4 or 5 days down the line, when you're looking at other people's reviews and your kit hasn't turned up, and you think, I don't mind. We all just want a level playing field. Yeah, don't want anything extra. But when I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I've paid 60 quid for this bloody thing, and I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs, not being able to review it. They must be able to. They could work something out. It's not impossible.
Well, yeah, the biggest argument I've had is that we cannot pay for expedited shipping as a pre-order.
Yeah,
that's got to change.
And I mean, I can't pay for expedited shipping. It's the same thing, on getting, in fact, so I had an order, right, and it was for a few things. One of them was a P40, right.
Yeah,
and I'd already, because there was a fuck up in my stock system, as sometimes happens, and it was already sold, so I didn't have it. And I could have tried to order it from Airfix, but I'd have to order another £245 worth of stuff.
Yeah,
and then hopefully it might arrive in 3 days, provided I'd hit the threshold, because provided everything was in stock. I actually went to another wholesaler, and they had one. And it was with me not the next day, 2 days. And it's like, well, again, that's in the back of my mind when things like last week happen. I just think, actually, I get better service from wholesalers than I do from Hornby. So anyway, moving on, because time is rolling on. Casey says, try to become an Airfix club member when living in the USA. We'll skip over that one. I've mentioned this before. It is a bit of I think the Airfix Club has a lot more value in the UK than anywhere else. Simon's Modelling Shed said, shop rents are sky high on the main street in towns, forcing businesses to go online. I think that has been a general concern, I think, for the last 20 years in the UK, is that rents for commercial properties on the high street are too high. We had a shop that closed down in Shaftesbury at the time I was thinking about doing a shop, and I looked at it and inquired. The rent was £2,500 a month.
Jeez.
£2,500 a month. So Yeah, I mean the amount that you would have to turn over. I mean, no wonder they closed down. They were like a clothing and fabric shop. I mean, you got to sell if your profit margin is 50%, right? Which is high. I mean, not many businesses have that sort of profit margin. You got to sell $5,000 worth of stuff a month. That's a lot. You know, even open 6 days a week, that's a lot.
Because this is the big argument that all shop owners have. I got a friend owned a haberdashery, fabrics, soft, everything, and he was paying his rates. He was one man in his shop alone because he couldn't afford a staff member. 3 doors up across the road, British Heart Foundation opens up a charity shop doing haberdashery. You know, no rates because of charity. They don't pay rates if you're a charity, and the workers in there were volunteers. The only person who was paid was the manager, who was on £30,000 a year to run that shop to make money. And he said, and then when his shop shut, what happened? Become a charity shop. You know what I mean? It's because they don't pay. Then they're wondering why the high street's dying. You know, it's
like why there are only charity shops. It's like, well, that's the reason.
Yeah, they don't pay rates.
Graham Ball again says, do you think that companies are using YouTubers' reviews to market their products now? It is free advertising. No, absolutely they are. So if you think about, I'll use myself as an example, right? Why do and Gary gets ICM kits as well. ICM send kits to us free of charge because they know we will look at them and review them. We've no obligation to say anything nice. But they know that if they've got a nice kit and people like us talk about it and are enthusiastic about it, people will look at those kits. So yeah, it absolutely is free advertising for them. It's a risk, of course, because we are under no obligation. So, you know, depending on the person, you know, you may get somebody who will just shill for a company, you know, but like with Moss, with Airfix, like myself, and you know others with myself with ICM and others, we generally call it how we see it. And if Moss sees a problem in an Airfix kit, he'll say it. If I see a problem in an ICM kit, like the Black Hawk I did, you know, last week, said those seats are an absolute bloody nightmare. You know, the rest of the kit is beautiful. So just, you know, as I said, just stick the seats on the ceiling. Don't worry about the legs, and you're golden.
Every time I hear someone say that magazine reviewers or YouTube reviewers make false claims about how good a kit is to keep the freebies coming in, it makes my shit itch because it's just crap. And honestly, I cannot tell you how much that winds me up. And it's just, I don't want to get your channel demonetized, so I shall say it's nonsense is what it is. Utter nonsense. So if anyone out there who's watching thinks that people who do reviews fluff it up to keep the freebies coming in, then you need to take a look at yourself.
I listen, mate. The problem is that people accuse me of being an Airfix fanboy. I'm an Airfix enthusiast, and I have been for 30 years. And it's not just Airfix model kits. I collect the toys. I collect everything. You know, logo. Anything's got an Airfix logo. You know, I've got a Bluebird teapot upstairs, complete all the figures, worth a few quid, just because it was made in an Airfix factory. Because that's what they did. They produced lots of stuff for Hasbro back in the day. But the thing is, I can honestly say is that hand on heart, I pay for all my kits. Now, I'm not denying that Airfix don't, you know, they give me kits because they do. But I don't sell them on. There are many people who received an Airfix kit from me or a Revell kit or whatever kit I've been given for them to build who've struggling a little bit. There are many out there that have, because I don't, if I'm given a kit, I don't sell it. If I sell an Airfix kit, it's because I've bought it and I want to sell it on. I'm not going to build it. But anything that Airfix give to me, I have properly given away for free. But there's always going to be that, and we're not here to review stuff, you know. But I do look at Airfix with pink glasses because at the end of the day, I want them to win. I want Airfix to be number one, scale model. And it's going to be a long time, but I will say that if anyone denies that this Jaguar isn't their best kit yet, and I know I've not built it, but you can just see, you can tell how good a kit is by looking at it built on the Airfix stand. I swear, I looked at that Jag, and the way that nose goes on, brilliant.
Yeah, there's one thing I haven't got the kit, so I can't comment. I've only looked at other people's reviews, like yours and Gary's. Sorry, that's wrong way round. I can never get this right. There, Gary, thank you. I don't like the way they've done the nose for the early one, where you have to cut. Okay, the stupid bit to me, get this, is that they've got a jig for both sides, and they've got the extra piece, and together they're almost the same size as the nose. Why didn't they just make a nose piece? And that's rather than getting you to cut the piece off. It's like, I
think there's more than three. No, I think there's 4 or 5 noses, isn't there? There's not that they can't. There must be a reason for them to do that. But then again,
when I saw that, I was just like, "Wait, what?"
But then again,
of course, it's the version I want to build. It's the one you have to hack the nose off. Okay.
But in all fairness, though, it's like it's only in gearing down. You can only build it gearing down. And people think, you still got the doors. Well, obviously you've got the doors on the sprue. The doors don't fall off when the gearing goes down. Do you know what I mean? The doors are going to be there. But for them to make it, because the surfaces are all different. When the gearing's up, the surfaces are all different. It would have doubled the part count. It would have been complex, and it would have made the price of that kit double. That's what I was told officially. So gearing down, but it's not, when people are bitching about it, they didn't bitch about Tamiya doing it, did they? Is it the Corsair? Was it the Corsair that you can only do with gearing down?
Don't know.
I think it was. But they, but as I said, we do reviews, and also, we make our money from the advertising. But that just basically keeps the channel going. It's expensive doing StreamYards. People don't seem to realize. But as I said, when people knock us saying, "Oh yeah, because you get it for free," that's not entirely true. I still bite at the table on the fact they've now producing the quick builds in India, because I don't care what anyone says. The plastic is indifferent. The quality of plastic on those quick builds is far inferior to what we were getting when they were made in this country. And I will damn say you're a liar if you say it's the same food grade quality plastic, because when anything comes on the quick build, it's scratched.
It might be food grade in India.
Yeah, but it's not food grade in the UK where it was. The amount of scratches on a kit on a quick build now.
So in answer to your question, Graham Bell, yes, it is free advertising for them, and the smart companies do see that and do send product out. The caveat with it is, of course, as a company, you have to be confident in your product, right? I doubt Mr. Craft would be sending out kits for people to review and expect to have a positive effect.
Well, then you would know if people are fluffing it all up to keep the freebies coming. Then
would. Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, if you shill for a company, generally, I think people can spot it. It comes through. So yeah. Anyway, moving on.
The distributors need to do this, because if you see the success Nigel has, because he gets kits from Gary from Tiger Hobbies to review, and Gary knows that if Nigel does a review on a kit, and Nigel will tell you black and white if it's good or not, it will be the success of whether that kit will sell. And there's a lot of it like it. Fortunately, ICM, bless their hearts, are sending you kits. I had a link with Vitalery. They sent me a couple of kits, then it stopped. Whether it's because I criticised the fact that they've done this model set, brilliant, paints, glue, snippers, everything. And I said that, but why did you put a 1980s plane in it? That's foolish. You should have put a moderner kit in that's going to be easier to build for a beginner starter set. And I didn't hear from them again. So it just shows you that, whether that's the reason, I don't know. But they've never sent me another one after that starter set.
Yeah.
When all I didn't criticize that. I thought it was a great 35 quid, was a bit on the dearer side. But you had your sprue cutters, you know, Vallejo paint, remember, in it as well, little bottles of paint, and proper brushable glue, not Airfix Humbrol.
But the thing to me about that, though, is if the company were to do market research, independently, it would cost them a lot of money to get the information that you gave them for free, right? So if they thought of it like that, as okay, because that is just the truth of that set, right? And that's how it's being perceived by somebody who would be potentially a market for that. So they shouldn't be surprised. You know, it's just like, and they should take it and be like, right, okay, should we look at pricing on this? Should we look at actually getting a more modern kit, or do we just roll with it? And you know, we just know that. So
but they could always put it out for feedback, not necessarily for a video to be made on it, couldn't they?
They could, but I think a lot of these companies are, let's say, not very internet savvy.
Listen, if you want to see comment, if they want to do proper market research, let us put the video out and then let the companies read the comments. Then they'll get a good idea. You know, even on the Jaguar kit, there are people who are saying it's too expensive. But then when we put the Buccaneer out, that was bloody expensive. You know what I mean? And that came up in the comments. So that, you know, for them, YouTubers or influencers, which I hate because I don't influence nobody. You know, I try not to.
Creators, we create a lot of stuff.
We create.
It might not be good or bad, but
yeah, we create. But look at the comments, and you'll see the you know, if you're a good marketer and you're good at research, you would look at the not look at what I've said in the video, look at what other people are saying, because they would see things in the video that I probably missed. You know, so yeah, it's for them. YouTube is and you know, I think it was Instagram that really pushed influencers, and I think the first thing was that vacuum cleaner, wasn't it? The shark. They gave them to every creator out there, didn't they? And they made a packet load. I got one of those sharks. They were crap. I went back to Vax and Henry straight away. Do you know what I mean? But that's where it all stemmed from, influencing on Instagram. But you know, it's amazing what you can see in a 30-second clip, though, isn't it?
But then if you buy a shark hoover because Kim Kardashian used a shark hoover, I think you need to have a word with yourself.
I don't think it was.
But there are quite a few people that probably would.
Yeah.
Well,
Listen, I've bought stuff because Alex has said, all right. No, I've bought stuff because Alex thinks it's good. So, but like that what was it? Was it Clear Prop? What was it I bought off you? The
Very Delta.
Yeah, beautiful kit. Bought it because Alex and I said I've got to get one of them. So there you go.
I was going to keep one for myself, but they all sold. I'm like, shit, I can't get them.
Yeah.
Anyway, another comment from Graham's Modelling Mayhem, Gary. Having worked for a major UK company in the logistics division at the field force side, just-in-time logistics does always work.
I think he corrected that later.
I can tell you it doesn't always work, because I have worked in many companies where just-in-time was we used to call it just too late, which kind of shows you it should work if everything is set up properly. It's just when something goes wrong, if you don't have the mechanisms to accompany that, which you should have, then it's just too late. But question, Alex, will your customers look elsewhere to get the model, or is there loyalty with your business? It's a really good question, Pete. And I would say there is a lot of loyalty with my kind of local, and I would say a lot of YouTube people that watch me who buy from the shop. However, you know, there'll be times where there's kits that I don't have that people will want to buy. Or they'll see a really good deal that they feel they can't miss. And for me, that's absolutely fine. That's capitalism, right? That's the way the market economy works. So loyalty is a strange thing in the modern world, I feel. I think you have to earn loyalty. You know, I wouldn't expect loyalty if my kits were more expensive than everywhere else. Or, you know, for people that come in the shop, the value add for a shop is that you can give advice, you know, you can chat and have a cup of tea with someone, you know, all that kind of stuff. For people on the internet, you kind of have to be at least competitive. Otherwise, why would somebody show you loyalty? So yes, they do, but I think it has to be earned. The Little Things Junkie says, question, Alex, how does the Hornby way compare to the Games Workshop way? Both sell through retailers and also direct to public. What's your experience? I can tell you Hornby are the worst company I deal with. Games Workshop are the best company I deal with, which surprised me, hearing some horror stories beforehand. So I had 3 conversations with Games Workshop. So they approached me. I had a number of conversations, went through stuff. I raised all my concerns. I was very blunt with them. I just said, apparently you're a nightmare to deal with. I've heard blah, 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 blah. And they basically went through all of that and said, no, basically. So if I sell one thing in a week from Games Workshop, I have a call with the rep on a Wednesday. I missed it today, actually. I'm just ringing back. That just reminded me. When we have the call, we'll go through stock, and anything, that one thing will be shipped. Mm-hmm. And it will arrive in 2 days. No shipping charge.
Are Games Workshop franchises, though? Isn't it like the main Games Workshop shops? They're franchises. You buy into a franchise, don't you?
I've no idea. No idea about the big ones. I only stock the foundation range, as they call it. It doesn't mean anything to anybody else. It's just the stuff they sell most of. But I can order anything, you know, that they and if I order it, it'll be there in a couple of days. So free of charge. They don't charge shipping at all. So, yeah. Also, when you open an account with them, your first order that you place to get the range in, it's a 3-month gratis period, which is like, that's fantastic. So I don't have to pay for any of this stuff for 3 months. Nope. Right. So yeah, they are definitely the best company to deal with. Question: do you think Airfix should include masks and PE in their kits like Edward or Academy? Oh, how many times have we gone over this one, Moss?
Yeah. Watch your space, innit?
I don't know, Gary. You're nodding your head. What do you think?
As Moss said, watch this space. I know they've been considering some aspects, certainly paint masks. Photo etch, as people have pointed out, would probably in the UK raise the suggested minimum age from 8 to 14, because very, very tiny bits of metal are not the greatest things. But certainly paint masks, I believe they have been looking into. Quite how deeply, I don't know. But yeah, Dale's answer was, yeah, we're looking into it, basically.
Just on the thing about the PE, you're right. It will raise the level from 8+ to 14+, but I can't see that being a problem because you've got the quick builds. If it's got Coca-Cola written on the side of it, or their trains have got Coca-Cola written on the side, got to be 16, or was it aimed at 14+? Because you've got Coca-Cola. You look on if you pick up a quick build and it's got Coca-Cola on it, or a vehicle with Coca-Cola on it, advertising to kids, isn't it? You've got to be 14 to buy that. Unbelievable, really. But they remember Airfix have done all this in the past. You know, they released a Harrier with cast undercarriage. Do you remember that? 2007, and everything with it. You know,
even before that, they so there was a set. I can see it. It's like a black box, and it's kind of at an angle with a whole load of weapons, high-tech weapon set.
High tech, it's called, yeah.
Yeah, I'll check. Yeah.
And it's got photo etch fins and stuff for the things. It's I mean, that was what, late 80s. It's got the JP233s in it, which are banned now, of course. So,
at the end of the day, how much are you willing to spend on a kit? They're already shitting themselves because they were worried about, we had a big update in pricing, and everybody kicked off at Airfix because they did this, Hornby, I should say. Ollie sent out a message: "Hi, thanks, we're going to put the prices up, but don't worry, prices are the same until September, they'll go up." We were all moaning about it, but I've noticed Tammy's gone, Ravel's gone up. I've noticed a lot of they followed suit to Airfix. I reckon that if you had a masking set and a P set, I reckon you added an extra tenner to your kit. Be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I would put masks in because you can do that dead cheap now.
I understand that. I don't think they need to put masks in. What they need to do is exactly what Armour Hobby does. Is on the instruction manual have the template where you can put the mask, you tape on, cut around it, and then put it on. I think that's the way forward. But you say it's relatively cheap, but is it? Because remember, you've got to pay someone to create it, do it, measure it up, make sure it fits. But
the question, I'll pull us back to the question there, because the wording is, do you think Airfix should include masks and PE?
So I would say together, no, I don't think they should do PE. And bearing in mind, Edward have weekend editions where they don't have masks and PE, and they're really cost effective, actually.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah,
I think if they wanted to do something like seat harnesses, then do 3D printed decal.
I must speak to Edward actually because of my idea of
mass.
Yeah, you should.
and they're dead easy to use. You know that there's a bit of education in there because they're not a decal; they just happen to be printed on decal paper. One drop of water on the back, 5 seconds, peel them off, and then you just stick them on. And they're a lot easier to use than photo etch, and I think they look a lot better as well.
I think the decal is underused. The decal is underused because we've done tests, we've done it ourselves, very hobbyist-like. But I said from the beginning, you could use decals for masking sets. Use the decal paper and mask that. And people say, yeah, but once you spray it up and everything with the gloss, you will. Honestly, mate, just a little scratch, it peels off.
Yeah, works.
Decals will come off, even if you put you can easily peel off a decal from putting, because that gloss and that varnish is very thin. All you got to do is just lift up the edge and it will come off. So I must get in touch with Edard because I passed it to Airfix. They didn't want to know, I don't think. But yeah, Edard might do it.
Because it's that question, it's the Jurassic Park question. Right? Yeah. It's like, we know they could. Should they? I don't think they should.
No.
And it's really for what Jamie said, and what everybody else has said. The costs would increase. It's extra. So look at, I can use ICM as an example. ICM make kits. And yes, they do paints, but obviously the raw materials are bought in. That's their core business. That's what they focus on. That's it. They don't mess about doing other stuff. And they said they have no interest in doing anything else. Like Armour Hobby, like Moss said, they provide the templates for you to make your own. So you can make your own if you want to, or you can do, everybody else does, and you can buy a masking set if you so wish. So it goes back to the topic of Airfix and Chill on Monday of, you can make it as expensive as you want, but I think the base entry level should be a base entry level.
And if they put a photo etch set in, how many? I don't know. Let's pick the Spitfire Mark 9 that's coming out this year, right? Let's say that they put a photo etch set in. How much would that increase the cost of that kit by? But then how many of those photo etch sets are actually going to get used?
That's the problem. You can't just put photo etch in one kit and leave it out in another. And you've got the weekender editions that Edar do, but Edar are a specific company and that works for them. Whereas Airfix, they want to bring a model at a certain price point, certain level as well,
Exactly.
that will hit everyone. But also, my fear is that when you start adding photo etch, you remove plastic. And like the likes of Thunder models, they use photo etch to create different marks and stuff. And when you speak to a lot of people, photo etch isn't all. It becomes photo etch should be a choice, not a compromise.
Yeah.
And
Before you carry on, Moss, who just a quick show of hands, who here enjoys photo etch?
No.
Okay, so then I think we've just made your point for you, Moss.
Yeah, as I'm saying, but also like with Thunder models, I've said this to them. The problem is that when you add photo etch stuff, it becomes it should be a choice, not a compromise. Yeah. And a lot of kits are compromised because they rely on you being able to bend a piece of photo etch into a curve. I know people say, "Oh, it's easy," but no, it's not. And I paid for a model kit in plastic. I bloody well want. If that's the case, why don't they just go that when it comes to tanks, do what Dragon does and do cast iron turrets and stuff? Make it easy, yeah? Don't worry about the plastic, just make it in cast iron or die cast or whatever it is, and then all the tracks and that are all metal as well, and just put a little bit of plastic in it to make it a kit. Doesn't work. We're plastic scale modelers. We're not die casters, are we? So well, if it's die cast, it probably comes in a box and it collects dust, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think if Airfix started going down that road, you got the mini art saga then, haven't you? Where a lot of it is all photo etching. Put people, I don't build mini art because of the 45 frets of photo etch you get in it.
Well, I like the result you get from it, but I could honestly say that. Of all the photo etch, and I do use it all the time, even though I don't particularly like it because I like the end result. But I think back and you think, when did I ever get to the end of a model and look at the photo etch fret and there's nothing left on it? It's there's always bits left over, And Armour Hobby are my favorite. I'm about to launch Armour April on the channel, and I've just done their Hurricane. They've got a decal for the instrument panel, and you just paint the instrument panel black, and you put the decal on, and it looks better than any photo etch instrument panel you could ever get, because their decal is just absolutely superb. It's just incredible, and all right, it's arguably more difficult to get a good result than it is just gluing some photo etch onto a blank faced instrument panel, but the final effect is way better just for that little bit of effort. It's and they are the best in the business at that. Personally, I've got a whole stash of Edward Overtrees up there because you can get them for 8-10 quid. I get them at Telford. Not that I'm ever back for Telford. I'm always in the sandbox, but a mate of mine gets them for me. That and a space set, which is the 3D printed instrument panel, and either 3D printed photo etch harness, which is my preference, or photo etch seat harness, and a masking set, and it's cheaper than a Profi pack, and I think it's a better result. I'm not saying that Airfix should go down, that route. I don't think they should. To go back to the original question, I should think just stick with it. Personally, I'd like a kabuki type masking set in there because it saves me buying one because I always do.
Yeah. The other thing Armour Hobby are doing, which I think is really good, is releasing STL files of detail stuff to do 3D printing at home.
Yeah, as long as you've either got a printer or a mate with a printer.
Yeah.
I think that's superb.
The cost will come down slowly. The quality is always going up. The cost will come down, and that's a brilliant business model. You want a really accurate exhaust? Well, we'll give you one, but you've got to pay for the print. You're at home. You've got to pay for the resin and the electricity or whatever. But so what? You can get that. That would be a better way to do things. I've got a kit of the Aramosh, the 400th scale aircraft carrier, because it's a Colossus class, which is what my dad was on. Now, you can get a detail set in photo etch for all the guns, but you've got like the 8-barrel pom-pom, which is basically a load of photo etch folded up, and it still looks flat. Or you can go online and buy these things 3D printed, and they look perfect.
Yeah, well, it just so happens that
every time,
all packed up, ready.
You get
is so a mate of mine, Drew, printed this off for me. Where's the camera? So that is on there. I've got 2 full sets of P39, well, sets if you like. So there's seats, wheels, exhausts, nose cap, gun barrels, everything, and there's 2 complete sets there. And you know, I bought the file, sent it to him, and he printed. And you can print as many of those off as you like once you've got the file, and it was cheap. And the Key 43 that's just come out, that I'm taking back with me, and that's going to be the next project when I go back. There's a QR code on the instructions, and you just click the QR code. It takes you to the website where the file is, and it says, "Thank you very much for buying our kit. Here's the file. Download here." Bing, and off it. It's only small. The seat, the frame, and a few bits and bobs, exhaust and whatnot. And that was free if you buy the kit, and the kit's not that dear. And
I think that's a good topic for another discussion at another time. Is 3D printing and how it's affecting it, because a lot of people have mentioned it. But anyway, I'm aware it's now 10 o'clock, and there are a whole bunch of questions I haven't managed to get to. I'll cover a few very quickly. So one, I think, is exactly what we've just been talking about. Should Airfix diversify and supply mass PE barrels? I think we just covered that. I would also say, just to finish that, finish that subject off, is I would much prefer Airfix concentrate on their core business. I think one of the reasons that Airfix died in the 80s, for many reasons, one of them was because they were so diversified. They had their, like Moss said, you know, they were doing printing for everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know, they hadn't built a business that could survive. Oh my God, wasn't that?
It's like a poor man's what they call it, you know, Bogo. It's a poor man's Bogo. Got a minute, you know?
Got a minute.
Again, Airfix branding, you know, things like that. Yeah, I'm a proper slut for it. I really am. If I see it in a charity shop, I've got to buy it. I'm terrible. Help me, please.
Neil Micklethwaite says, "Didn't Airfix do a Doctor Who TARDIS? Does not that qualify as a police vehicle?"
No.
But you can't buy it now.
No. Yeah, they're worth some money as well now.
Science Modelling Shed said, "If Airfix had 90% of the budget to survive on their own, do you think they would?" I don't. It's not up to them. It would have to be Phoenix spinning them out as an independent company. So unfortunately, they don't. At the moment, they're just a brand. People forget Airfix are not a company; they're a brand in a group, Hornby Group, owned by an asset management company. So
I remember they've actually slain a few brands, haven't they? They've got rid of the Oxford diecast, that's gone, and this and then we were told about this tie-in with the what's it called, the game company they've got into. What's it called again? Warlord Games. And when I said we had on Airfix and Chill, they went a way of, you know, building tanks for both, and they all said they don't even own the tools. Warlord do not own the tools for the models in those. I don't know.
So I think I will thank everybody for the comments I didn't manage to get to and the questions. I think we covered as much as we could. I will just end on this one for Moss. "I know how Hornby could improve their finances. Announce a 172nd Bearcat, but a minimum order of 1,000 kits if your name is Moss." So.
They'll never do a Bearcat. I'm pissing in the wind at that argument. They might do, but
with a challenge as well.
There's not enough schemes for them to keep producing it. But then again, there wasn't that many schemes of Concorde. It was just basically letters and numbers, wasn't it? So
True,
yeah.
So go on then to close us out. If Hornby isn't killing Airfix, or if Airfix were independent, what one kit would you, or one subject would you like them to tool? Gary, what's your choice?
Halifax.
Oh, that was quick.
Halifax. they would sell everyone. There's. You remember, Moz, that presentation they did about this is why we choose kits. It's British. They're a British company. It completes a theme because it's the World War II bombers and all of that. They could do 5 or 6 releases of it with different parts and schemes and this and that and everything else, all from the one design. And do it before Italeri do it, or ICM.
Jamie.
Well, I've got one silly one, which is clearly the 124th Tucano, but we're never going to see that. But the ones that they really, really should do is the 148th long nose Blenheim. I mean, where is that? Come on.
Yeah.
72nd Hampton, which I'm very hopeful now the classic ones, the vintage classics out, because I think one final squeeze from that particular mold, give it a couple of years and we'll get a new tool, one of them. Here's hoping. And the third one is a Hudson in 72nd. Or maybe even 48th. That would be my 3. All in that kind of, they do like their early war stuff, don't they? They're 1939, 1940. And it's
so Theory Battle to complete the set.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, France together.
Yeah. I would like to see an Airfix Fairy Fulmer. But that wouldn't be my choice. But yeah. What about you, Moss?
Well, let me tell you something.
Bearcat?
4 years ago, no, not Bearcat, but 4 years ago, I was privileged to stand or sit invited by Dale to Duxford for the 124th scale Spitfire. Okay. And I stood there and I was in awe, Dale, he saw me doing the vintage classic reviews. We like him. He said, "Can you come up? We want you to come to Spitfire Day." I went up there. Do you know they're going to announce a Spitfire? And they did. They announced this 124 scale Spitfire. On that day, I stood up and I said, "Why don't you do anything space?" 4 years later, we now have a rocket. So, Gary, I know you know Dale now for 2 years, and you've always said Halifax. Give it another 2 years, you're going to get your bed in Halifax. But seriously, in all fairness, I jest about the Bearcat, but for them to develop an Artemis, I would have liked them to have done the SpaceX Dragon, because I think that's the one that people really would build, but I know they can't. But the Artemis is second best. They must have heard what I said, and they went off and they've now created these space rockets. So my actual model that I wanted, or subject, because you asked for subject, has been done to get something new, space. And I'm honoured. But I'm not going to say because of me, Dale did space. Bollocks. No, I'm not going to be that twatty than some people. But I think that, if you ask, you will get. I really do believe that. And remember, Airfix is a small team. But if they did want to release something new jet, I'm sure there's a Tonka in there somewhere. There's got to be a Tonka somewhere.
Yeah.
There has to be. I can't. If they've just done this one now, the Jaguar, Tonka. So I think Tonka's next. I really do. I think it is, yeah.
And hopefully the FG, the decent one.
Yeah.
But I am jealous. Where's the picture?
Well, it's very strange that they at the moment they did the Sea King 72nd, then they did 148. But now I think they're going to start doing 148 and then shrink down. I think it's easier to build up and shrink down. I think that's what they'll do. So you'll end up with a 172nd Jaguar in a couple of years' time. I think that's what it will be.
Well, they did it with the
and a 172nd Anson as well.
Yeah. I mean, from my side, I think I would love to see them do not necessarily just bring back the vintage classics, but I think if they did a range of like figures of some sort, You know, I've mentioned the wildlife ones, the historical ones.
Blue tint.
I think if they could, I think they could do something in that with their new, you know, the way they can do their new tooling. I think it would be, especially the wildlife stuff, it's unusual enough. We mentioned before a few weeks ago, it's a different marketplace now. Miniature painting is much more a thing, which it really wasn't such a big thing back in the sort of 60s and 70s. So I'd love to see that. I think it would be interesting. I've done quite a few of the vintage classic ones. Oh, well, not the vintage, they're just vintage. And they're not bad, but I'd love to see what Airfix could do now. But anyway.
There is also a lot of pressure that I'm told that for non-military subjects as well.
Yeah.
Increase.
You missed it earlier. I got that today.
Yes. Snap and glue.
The snap and glue one. Yeah,
because I got this. Snap and glue. We could be snap and glue buddies. No glue required.
A buddy build of snap and glue.
Snap and glue. Yeah.
You got snap and glue kits as well, guys? Gary, Jamie? No.
No.
You can't be in the club then.
No,
Can't be in the club.
On that bombshell, thank you to all of you for joining me tonight. Thank you for everybody that came into the chat. Apologies we couldn't get to all of the comments that you made, but it was great to have all of them there. I've tried to cover as many as we could. And if you've got any more, please do join us again next week. We've got Airfix and Chiller course on Monday. I'll link everybody's channels in the description of the video too. So go and check them out. Other than that, have a great rest of the week. Weekend soon. See you then. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.